Karo and I are huge fans of Entourage. I mean, like, I don't know if a lot of people, come up to you. Like, I came up to you randomly. I was like, holy shit.
People do come up to me. Usually it's, 40-year-old dudes.
Man of the year, man of the year, man of the year. Welcome to the number one friendship podcast in the country. I'm Aaron Karo.
I'm Matt Ritter.
So Matt, we work in Hollywood.
We are Hollywood.
We are Hollywood. And we've had success.
We're balling.
And I also think we have a great entourage.
Yeah, I mean, probably, are you saying you want to ditch them or what do you want to do here?
Well, I don't think we can ditch them until we've climbed like another couple.
Okay. Yeah.
We're
not there yet. Well, let's keep them around.
Right. Exactly. You know who also had a great entourage? The show Entourage.
Entourage.
Yes.
Entourage.
And our special guest today, Doug Ellin, created Entourage. The creator, showrunner, executive producer of Entourage.
Also, Long Island boy.
Yes.
Love that.
Long Island boys do make good.
Yeah, we do. Or is it like just the ones that do make good make it known?
Yeah.
Yeah,
survivorship bias.
Yeah.
True.
Because there's a lot of Long Island boys that just make it not great.
But I do think the show is definitely analogous to our buddies here who obviously were kidding. We would never leave them.
We all loved Entourage because it was an authentic show about friendship. Like first time you saw guys really, really ribbing each other the real way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think you guys are going to love this interview. He's a really funny guy, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Doug, great to meet you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Long Island boys, what's going on?
That's right. Yeah, so you are a proud son of Merrick.
Yep.
Belmore JFK. We are proud sons of Plainview JFK.
The better JFK.
The better JFK, we always say. And so, as you know, we have the same 9 friends from Plainview. That's the whole genesis of our podcast.
Yeah.
Are you still boys with your Long Island crew? What's the Doug Ellin crew like?
Yeah, I mean it's actually ridiculous. I mean the girls and the guys. I mean I am probably in touch on a at least monthly basis with at least 35 people from class of '86 JFK,
wow.
and we have a chat with my guys. I mean, we have one bigger chat, but my guys, I think there's 9 of us in that chat that have known each other. I think maybe 1 or 2 weren't from kindergarten, but the rest are from kindergarten. So, and the girls too, a lot of them. So it's crazy. And we've all gone back to 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year. Even saw the last one in 30 year. I mean, it's not funny, but yeah, I walked into my 30 year and I saw a guy I grew up with who I was, friendly with, who was the tough guy in my school, and I love him. I mean, I shouldn't say that; I'll be in trouble. But I saw him. I said, "Chris, you're not going to cause any trouble tonight." He's like, "Come on, I've changed." And I have a great picture of us from that night. And 6 months later, he was arrested for 5 murders, and he's doing life. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he had a gym in Plainview. So, but anyway, we had a wild crew. Merrick was an incredible place to grow up. And, you guys know Long Island, and Merrick really was Goodfellas is Merrick. It was the Jews living next to the Italians. It was the mob next to the dentist. And it was a pretty interesting, awesome place to grow up. So,
well, that's not where I thought that story was going.
But
people never change,
crew,
right? People never really change.
But my core crew are all good group of guys and girls. Some of my best friends are still my girlfriends from elementary school. So it's very interesting and cool. They've all. I mean, I used to have at my my Entourage premieres legitimately 30 or 40 people from JFK and Merrick all together because from Lakeside and what was the other one? I went to Lakeside, but Chatterton. So it's, and a lot of people always say that for whatever reason, Long Island has that groups. Like when you guys say you have that, like I meet friends out in LA, and when I tell them that these are my best friends, they don't even understand it, So, and I really wanted my kids to grow up like that, which that didn't happen in LA. It's just a very scattered, different world. Although they have some friends, but it'll be cool to see whether they, when they're in their 40s and 50s, if they're still friends with people they grew up with. So
I have a take on that, is that like I think it's for the more like middling towns that actually exists for, like everybody more grounded towns. I'm not so sure the Roslins and Great Necks of the world have that same tight 30-year crew.
Yeah, the more working class, I think the more people stick together, and the houses were on top of each other, which I loved. I mean, we had. I mean, I can name my entire block. I could walk out of my house and there were 20 kids that I could play basketball, hockey, football with right in front of my house. So I love that experience.
Matt, didn't we have something in an early podcast that like, as property values go down, like friendship goes up?
Yeah, we definitely did. We did on Long Island for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. By the way, my neighbor was a sewage basin. My mom used to joke, "Oh, it makes a great neighbor." I'm like, "No, Mom. You know what makes a great neighbor? A neighbor. It's a human."
So, Doug, complete opposite question. When's the last time you made a new friend?
I mean, I do make new friends mostly through pickleball, but I don't, it's weird because I do have so many long-term friendships, but I don't also at the same time really like people that much. So I don't like to acquire new friends that often anymore, but I feel like I've made some new ones recently, but mostly from pickleball, which I know we'll get into later, but I don't even go out a lot. So, but now, actually, you know what? I'm not saying I made friends, but it was wild because, you guys are still younger than me. And I ran into Matt in the Hamptons, and he's having a baby and he's kind of living my life from 20 years ago. And it does go fast, but I have a 6-month-old or 7-month-old, and I just had a mommy and me class. So, I mean, it's so surreal to be doing this over again. And I met actually a Jersey kid who looked, the guy that Vince on Entourage was based after was my buddy Andrew Abitamarco from, JFK 86. And this kid walked into the mommy and me class. He's probably 30. And he looked just like my boy growing up in high school. And, fortunately, he had watched Entourage and knew all about it. I said, "You look exactly like the guy that I modeled Vince after." So it was cool. But I don't know if he's a new friend because he thinks I'm kind of old, but, good, cool, young guy,
Doug, my agenda here is to become dad friends with you. I mean, come on, that's what's going on here.
We got to make it's about making the kids friends now for me. It's like I want to find like, and I still have some good friends from my kids, their parents. So, and, now seeing that, because some of them do have their relationships. I just had Coachella I have a house in the desert, and my kids brought some friends, and some of them were friends, from elementary school. So that was cool, who I'm still friends with the parents.
By the way, Doug, you say you're not acquiring any new friends. You've never met Matt. Matt will weasel his way in there, and you'll be best friends before you. He's very charming.
No, I mean, I've been slow playing it since last summer.
Very charming.
Matt and I became close in the Hamptons. We spent, I don't remember the coffee shop, but we were in,
it's in SAG. I'm going back in August. So.
I hope I'm going back in August. We'll see. I got to go see my dad. So
talk about the other part. So like now you've got this podcast with the Entourage guys, like at some point you obviously became close with these guys. Like,
yeah.
Are they as close? Are you as close with those guys? I mean, I know it's a different friendship, obviously, like your childhood friends are your childhood friends, but do you feel like you have achieved that, like in adulthood with these other guys? And what is that like?
What's so interesting, Entourage, I was casting for my friends. Like, that's what I was doing. It was inspired by Wahlberg. And, but I told him from the get-go, I need to make this New York, not Boston. And while some people think that's similar, there are big, subtle differences that I get. So I was casting my friends, and from pretty much, instantaneously, we were all very close. And, most of us have remained close. So when we do the podcast, a lot of people say it feels like your friends, that you've listened to for 20 years, because that's what we are. And we don't, again, I've got a baby and a fiance and 2 older kids. So I'm not out and about, but we speak and text all the time. And when we do the podcast, it is like high school. You see these guys and it's like, we're together every day almost, it feels like. But
have the guys who some of them are based on, have your real friends kind of met? You said you brought them to the like premieres and stuff. Have they met their kind of like character and like hung out? Like, is there a turtle in your crew? Have they hung out? Like, real turtle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Turtle was like a combination of people and drama. Wahlberg has a real Johnny Drama, who's this hilarious character, but I still took more traits from some of my friends. So yeah, they've all met, they've all hung out. We're talking, 20 years we've traveled together, so they all know each other, and other characters, ancillary characters were all based on, there's at least 20 names from JFK, Merrick that were in the show that were based on friends of mine,
We always talk about like friend crews, and the friend crew dynamic. I'm curious, like, what is your role in your friend crew? Like, Karo's like our friend of utility. I'm the friend of pleasure. Obviously in the Entourage group, they all kind of filled a role. But like, what is your role in your actual friend group?
Oh, it's funny because when we talk about it on the podcast, and if you know Entourage, E was the manager and whatever. Yeah. I mean, that's who I am. And Connolly on the podcast always talks about that everybody complains about him, that he's the fucking pain in the ass. He's the one who, that was always me. I was the one who, I wasn't the huge partier. I wasn't the crazy one. I was more of the, mellow moral compass that some people thought was like complaining too much or whatever. But, that was more me. So.
Did you get, I mean, obviously you have these friends from childhood and it seems like everybody's pretty grounded and humble, but you obviously got hugely successful. I don't know how well everybody else in your Merrick crew did, but I'm assuming you're at the apex of, both financial and just notoriety. How did you navigate that with friendship? Was it easy because of your crew? I mean, I'm sure you probably had you had to have been some hanger-oners that tried to latch on at some point.
Not real. I mean, I guess, I had a real drama, and it wasn't that he tried to latch on. He was always latching on, even when we were in kindergarten. But my best friends, no one ever, I don't think anyone ever really gave a shit. We always have been exactly the same. And when people, when people see me, and it's always like a weird question because, you go, oh, have you changed? Have you done this? I mean, none of my friends have changed. We talk about it all the time. We're almost all exactly like we were when we were kids. Nothing's changed. Most of my friends are, and I'm not talking massive financial success, but most of them have become pretty successful. They've all done well. They'll have great families. And I don't think we've ever had any of those issues of jealousies or any of that stuff. And we've all always been kind of, like I say, inclusive. They've always been invited to whatever I'm doing. I think I've shown them some great experiences. They've gotten to meet, I mean, I got to find this picture, but I probably had, we shot at Yankee Stadium. Mark Teixeira got us Yankee Stadium for Entourage. And I had all of my friends be extras there, bring their kids. And we had the run of Yankee Stadium for the day. So, those are some special things. But again, nobody treated me any different. And I never treated anybody else any different. And, one of the shows I was trying to do after Entourage was about that because, I have friends who are freaking billionaires and I have friends who own pool cleaning companies that do very well. But there's never been that kind of feeling of like, oh, this guy's so different. And why is he like that? So we've all really maintained the same kind of dynamics that we always had.
Matt, do you think, because we're the only 2 guys in our group who are Hollywood, like, do you think our friends like give a shit? They seem excited about our stuff, but also they seem like they don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always felt like our friends don't totally get what we do here. I don't know if you've ever sort of had that feeling of like they don't really get what you will. Now they probably when they started seeing it on TV, but did you ever feel before that they didn't really get what you were doing?
Well, I mean, people always used to say, what are you doing? They were starting their careers and, I'm sitting here where they don't even understand like how I'm going to eat and how I'm going to live. So a little bit, obviously the world's so different now because, when I came to LA, 30 years ago. There was no social media and there was no internet. So it was just all kind of quiet. And, you know, all of a sudden, you know, I mean, you know, my first movie, you know, which was, you know, $100,000 movie, but still, you know, as you guys know in Hollywood, if you get a movie in a movie theater, you know, when you're 22 years old, something's gone well, even if everybody hates the movie. But I had that movie out at my 5-year high school reunion. And I remember just feeling really good, even though I was paid I think I got paid like $14,000 to write and direct this movie, but it was playing all over the freaking world. So when I came to the 5-year reunion, I felt pretty cool, but people still were like, you know, how much money? Like, what do you do? You know, this and that, you know, as we know, our business every day, people ask us like, what's going on? What's next? What are you doing? Like you could have $1 billion and they still make you feel like you're a loser. You know? And you don't ask them the questions. You don't ask your dentist friend if he got any new teeth to work on this month. They always do that to us. So even now at 55, every day in the chat, you know, I have a new show that I just produced and financed and trying to sell. And every day on the chat, it's like, what's going on with the show? And leave me alone. Like when it's on TV, you'll see it just like last time, you know?
You know what? That makes me want to go to my doctor friends. Like, oh, I hear HMO's reading your fucking lunch, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was Shane Black wrote this great article in Variety. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. It was like, no, I will not read your goddamn.
Yeah. I love that.
You know, and I mean, even, you know, the amount of times like my buddy Scott Lavin, who I love, but I named Scott Kahn, played him, you know, or his name on my show. And, you know, he's a lawyer. He's an estates and trust attorney. And he called me one day. He's like, can you read my buddy's script? And I was like, no. And I didn't even like discuss it with him. He's like, why not? I'm like, because it takes a long time to read scripts. To be honest with you, like, I don't read a lot of scripts that my agent sends me because I'm lazy and I hate bad scripts. And he, you know, he'll laugh now about it, but he got mad at me. And I'm like, Scott, did you read it? He goes, no. I go, you didn't even read it? And you want me to read it? He goes, what do I know about a screenplay? I go, you're an estates and trust attorney. If I started asking you to do people's like estates, you know, and trusts for free, would you want to do that? You know, so they don't understand that part of it. And they don't understand that it is a time consuming thing to read a screenplay. And if you're going to sit down for 2 hours and really delve into it, you want to hope that it's going to have something to do with your life rather than, you know, your friend in New Jersey, you know?
It's also this, like, I think it's people feel that it's accessible, like anybody can do it.
Yeah, and they sort of can.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a difference between a lawyer. You can't just be a bad lawyer. You actually have to go to school for it. You could be a bad screenwriter. You could be a bad comedian. Like, you can do that instantaneously, but that is the thing that they always don't get. And, you know, they think it's just like, okay, well, someone wrote a script. It must be good, you know?
I was a bad lawyer, actually, once upon a time. I think I told you that because your brother's a big time lawyer, actually. Pretty revered in the biz. I gotta ask, best year of Entourage versus year of your brother as a partner at a huge firm. Who's pulling down more?
You know what? It would be hard to say. My brother is so conservative. I couldn't even tell you what he was making, and also the opportunities for investments that he got based on the people that he came into contact with. So, but mine was much more exciting. That I can tell you. You know, my years were much more exciting. But I would probably take his bank account over mine.
Wow. Yeah, I know. Because my friends always send me articles like, "Oh, did you see the average salary of a partner at a law firm? How's things going in Hollywood?" I'm like, "Yes, I get it. I'm not getting an average of $7 million a year."
But my brother also, I mean, you know, I should talk about it, but my brother lived in the same apartment for 30 years that he moved in after he graduated Harvard Law. So his expenses, I mean, he's a different kind of guy. If I could make his expenses, I would never think about money.
Yeah, I know those guys. Wait, let's talk about pickleball. We got to talk about pickleball. So Karo and I never touched it. I play
pickleball.
Oh, you have?
I play with my parents at the Y.
Oh, you did? Okay. So I've never played.
What the hell's wrong with you?
I feel a little insulted on some level that nobody's invited me, really. I feel like there's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Now I don't want to like it because nobody invited me to play it, kind of thing. So I guess I just don't get it yet. Can you just give me like the quick sell of like why it's taken off so much? Like, is it the social? Is it the sport? Like, what is it that makes pickleball the new thing?
Are you a tennis player or no?
Yeah, I like tennis.
So, um, I like to think, and I was on Entourage, ahead of the curve on a lot of things, whether it was Apple products that before they really existed, and I do tend to see things before they really come to fruition. And Phil Mickelson was on my show, and I was in the desert, and I walked by this court that Phil Mickelson was on. He's playing pickleball. It looks like some moronic version of tennis, and I'm like, what in the hell is this? And he said, you want to play? And I got on the court, and the second I got on the court, I knew that I found my next 20 years of athletics. I ran a basketball game in LA for a decade. I was getting hurt nonstop. And by the way, now pickleball, which has become much more athletic and aggressive, people are getting hurt. So I don't want to make it like they're not, but it's not, I think the most common emergency room visits allegedly are basketball, 50-year-olds playing basketball, 40-year-olds. So for me, who loves tennis and was never quite as good as I would have liked to be, there are things you can do on a pickleball court that you could never do on a tennis court. You can also play with different levels of people and have fun, like ping pong. But you can also get to a level of competitiveness where, you can destroy people that, think that it's very simple and very easy. So I have the amount of people that I've put into this sport over the last 7 years, and from literally laughing in my face to now seeing it on ESPN, Sports Illustrated, LeBron James owning a team, Tom Brady owning a team. It is, I don't know, and I'm an owner of this, Chicago Slice Major League Pickleball, and I would love to sell it that it's going to be this worldwide televised thing. I'm not sure about that yet. What I do know is that participation in it is going to continue to grow every single day astronomically, because the stickiness of it is just incredible. It's fun, it's exercise, and it is very social. And like I say, most of the friends I've made over the last 8 years are from pickleball. It's the only sport I've ever played. I was obsessed with basketball. I never went on a vacation and said, oh, how do I find some people to get on, to play some basketball with me today? I traveled to Italy. I sent nets and lines and rackets over so I could play in Italy. I'll go to Florida. I'll get on Facebook rooms, which I'm not a guy who meets strangers. And I'll be like, anyone know pickleball players in South Florida? And it is that type of obsessive thing. I don't know if you saw, Mike Malone wins the NBA championship, and the next day he's playing pickleball. And it really is that thing. I wake up every day and go, this is what I want to do today, So, and every one of my friends that have gotten to play feels the same way. So
you got to get me in a game.
Everybody says that too. It's like the screenwriting thing. And my fiance gets mad.
Watch my pickleball reel, man. Watch my pickleball reel.
My fiance gets mad at me because we have a house in the desert and there's a club and all these people play. And it's not that I'm being snobby. If I'm going to spend 2 hours, I want to play with people that I think are on my level. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. But I won't even play with a lot of these people. And if I can get a game like today, I have a game with, these are professional athletes. I mean, one of my friends that I play with was the #1 tennis player in the world when he was 14. I've played, a pickleball with, Sam Querrey, who I went to see in the Wimbledon semifinals 5 years ago. Jack Sock, who's been top 10 in the world. Marty Fish, Michael Chang. I could never be on a tennis court with these people, but I actually can believe that I can beat them in this sport, even though I, usually can't, but I can come close, No,
I was going to say, Doug, before we let you go, we crowdsourced a couple questions from our Long Island friends.
Yeah.
I would say one of them is a good question and one of them is a dumb question. So I think that's a pretty good,
not a bad average.
Pretty good average.
Well, we texted the crew. I mean, they were super pumped. The Long Island crew was super pumped that we were interviewing you. So they were like, come on, you got to ask these questions. And we're like, no, we're not going to ask that.
I'll start with the good one. This is Mike from Lynbrook. And he said, I want to read it. How does Doug think male friendships on TV are handled now versus when he made Entourage? The friendships on Entourage felt authentic, and I wonder if he feels current shows shy away from being as real as the friendships he depicted because how the culture has changed.
I don't watch all that many shows. I mean, Succession, while not a show about friendship, and while a lot of people will watch it and find it, vulgar and obnoxious, those guys are to me, that's, the way the family talks to each other is almost like, an Entourage group, and I'm trying to think what shows I've seen, but even before Entourage, really the way I pitched Entourage was about friendships that you don't see. Like Good Will Hunting was one of the only things around at that time that I felt portrayed how guys really talk and interact with each other, and especially in their 20s. I mean, Entourage, we started getting into our 30s, and as you guys know, usually people start to get families and this and that, and the only time you get to have those dynamics is when you go to Vegas together or do something like that. But I don't even know what shows there are. I mean, there's always, and I try to tell my kids this because they're watching some of the stuff going on in the culture and going, well, like, what's happening to the world? There's always overcorrections. I mean, Andrew Dice Clay, who was on my show, was canceled 30 years ago, and people act like there's never been, PC movements that try to shut people up. I still believe that, great voices and great artists will always find ways to portray things. Ricky Gervais with Afterlife, or Chappelle, obviously, Dave. They the Bear, they know how to keep things actually real. And there's a large segment of the audience that still wants to see that stuff. I think, the only difference now is you have this Twitter world that, feels like it's so all encompassing and powerful. But I think the world is kind of swinging back. And even with Entourage, I started doing the podcast because all of a sudden, in the middle of the pandemic, I was waking up and there were articles about Entourage, which hasn't been on the air in 10 years, talking about how awful it is, how evil it is, how this. And I was like, what in the hell is that? And I know at the core of it, no matter what the words were coming out of people's mouths were, this was about a group of loyal people who cared much more about themselves than about money or fame or anything else. And I think I don't know what a good show is that I can think of right now that portrays it well, although I'm excited to see second season of The Bear coming up, even though that's more family and friendship. But so anyway, that's my.
I don't know why, but when you said I'm excited to see the second season, for some reason I thought you were going to say of Sex and the City, the new Sex and the City. I was like, that was weird.
Now, by the way, a lot of people always ask me about Sex and the City. Sex and the City was a great show to me, show, and it almost felt like. It almost felt like it was a bunch of guys rather than girls, especially when it first came out. There weren't any females in the world that you saw on television talking like that. Now, I hated the movies and I hate the reboot. I thought it was horrific and exactly what you're talking about, absurd pandering to, bizarre cultural norms and trying to throw in everything, into the mix.
And our other question from our buddy, this is from Brad from Plainview. Sorry, he wants to know what Sasha Grey is like and if you still talk to her.
So I spoke to Sasha last week, who I'm hoping is going to do the podcast. And, I don't want to act like I know her well, but on the show, she was unbelievable. And the way that all came about is I saw the Girlfriend Experience, and I legitimately had no idea she was a porn star. And I watched that movie and I was like, God damn. And then, I don't know. I don't even know if Google was out yet, but I figured out that she was a porn star and to some degree, an extreme porn star at the time, especially. But I wrote this idea and I said, the only person that I'm doing this with is Sasha, because she feels like she's not a porn star. And from the moment I met her, honestly, if I didn't know and she told me she was a Harvard graduate who, or an engineer, she was extremely smart, so professional and awesome to work with. And we're hoping to get her on the podcast in the next few weeks. So.
Well, Brad's going to be very happy that you're still talking to her. He's very excited.
Awesome, Brad.
This was really awesome. I mean, Karo and I are huge fans of Entourage. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people, come up to you. Like, I came up to you randomly. I was like, holy shit, it's Doug Ellin. I got to come say hi to him. I mean, it just felt so authentic, especially to guys like us, from Long Island. And it's such a testament to friendship. Like you said, it's about loyalty and our, our whole crew. I mean, that's that's our show. Yeah. So it's so cool that we're getting to do this with you.
Yeah. People do come up to me. Usually it's, 40-year-old dudes. It's never but it's never the hot girl at the bar, It's usually a 40-year-old dude. Dude, I love it. It's just like my friends, But I appreciate it, guys. And keep it rolling, Long Island strong. I mean, I love going back. I go back to Merrick. Whenever I go to New York, I've taken my kids to my house. Like, we've been to my house probably every 10 years I've gone back that I grew up, because I do have memories there that I don't know if my kids will have those memories. I mean, I loved where I grew up. I loved the friendships I made, and
Thanks, dude. This was really awesome.
All right, really guys, cool. I appreciate it. Be good. Get on that pickleball court.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and find a court in Sag Harbor. Actually, I saw there's like a sign up for the pickleball court.
Yeah, I love it. All right.
Thank you, Doug.
Be good. All right. See you.
So that was great.
He's the man.
Awesome dude. How did you find him?
I mean, literally, this is gonna be like,
here we go.
Relatable Matt.
Here we go.
Sitting in a coffee shop in Sag Harbor, waiting for my order. He's waiting there, and I just was like, you know what? Why would I not say hi to Doug Ellin? And that's how I live my life. Oh, wait, you know this. Like, what am I going to do? Like, not say hi to a guy that I really respect and think is awesome. So I went up to him, and we just ended up chatting for like, I don't know, an hour.
You get in these conversations. It's unbelievable. These long conversations.
Well, I told him that it was funny because I was like, oh, I used to be a lawyer. He's like, my brother's a lawyer. And I had known that already.
Yeah.
So and his brother
how'd you know what he looks like? Who knows what Doug Ellin looks like?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know. But the reason I guess the only reason I know is, and we didn't talk about this on the episode with him, is he was on Entourage. I meant to tell him I loved his character. Remember? He was one who would always like shit on drama in the auditions. He'd go on his phone.
Yeah.
That's how I knew who he was. Yeah. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have known that.
Right. I did think it was funny when he was like, it's never a hot chick who comes up to me.
It's always 40-year-old losers.
But what I thought was most interesting was not only let's have this incredible crew longer than us. His friend crew is longer than our crew.
And bigger.
He's longer and bigger.
He's longer and bigger. He's the better version of us. Is Doug Ellin the better version of us?
He is a version of us.
You know what I loved? The best part was when he said when he met me, the first time he met me, he's like, oh, you reminded me of me when I was younger. Nicest thing anyone's ever said.
Oh, yeah. I use that. That's very nice. Yeah. That's very nice.
But I also wanted to interview him because I knew he was huge in pickleball, and I keep hearing about how people are making friendships in this whole pickleball realm.
Yeah. But I think even zooming out, what we talked about was that he found something he loves.
Yeah.
And he was like, I really want to spend time doing this. He wasn't trying to make new friends.
No.
He was like, I'm going to do this thing. And then he ended up making friends.
It's actually funny because when we started talking to him, he's like, yeah, I don't really make new friends anymore. And then when he started thinking about it, he's like, well, actually, I've made a lot of friends in pickleball.
Yeah. So I think, the prescription here is find what you love and the friends will come.
Yes.
So if our listeners are out there who are maybe looking for friends, a little bit lonely, new town, just looking for a greater social life, you and I always talk about you're not going out to try to you're not going out and introducing yourself. I mean, that's something that you do. That's not what we're saying. Go find a great activity and just do it.
I also think that when you do something that you really like, you are this version of yourself that you're always wishing you would be.
Yeah, you're the best version of yourself.
You are. And even if you're not great at this thing, whatever it is, if you just enjoy it, the best side of you is being presented. And I just think that's attractive on a chemical level, whatever you want to call it. You've got a light around you. It's welcoming. When you see people that are into whatever that is, if it's a sport like pickleball, whatever, if it's if I see somebody with binoculars, when I'm bird watching, people see me in the neighborhood, and I see a hawk and I'm up there. I swear to God, the crazy thing is all you have to do in my neighborhood, all you have to do is look up. And when people are walking by, they start looking up too.
Yeah.
They're like, what's going on? And then suddenly I'll just have people who have no interest in doing this suddenly are looking up with me at a hawk in a tree. And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Why did they stop? Because they could tell I was genuinely into that thing.
Right. Have you ever played pickleball?
No.
I played a couple times with my parents. It's pretty fun. I don't have good hand-eye coordination, so it's a little tough for me. That's my Achilles heel. But there was I was playing against an old guy. I mean, I'm in tip-top shape. Yeah. This guy was late 70s. I'm running, diving. He never moved. Boop, boop.
I mean, I think that's what people love about it. It's the great leveler.
Yeah, it is.
And by the way, off air, post episode, he offered me a pickleball racket. He said, come by my house.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. So I'm going to pick up a Doug Ellin special.
Can't wait to see what Doug Ellin's house looks like.
He's probably not going to let me in. So we always want to shout out our fans. Let us know what's going on in your life. Let us know if you want to shout out for a friend who's done right by you. Or
why are you screaming all of a sudden?
I have no idea. I can't control the volume of my voice. So we want to give a shout out to some of our fans who have been really supportive of us, and we want to support you. So shout out to Falin, one of our biggest fans out there.
Great message he sent us. Really appreciate it. Keep listening. And guys, that's our show. Remember, be good to yourself. Be good to your friends.
Love you, buddy.